Welcome to the Sticky Art channel. In this video I'm going to be making Spider-Gwen from Into the Spider-Verse movie out of polymer clay. First step I do with every model is I sketch out my stylized version that I would like to build the model off of. This helps me work out some of the issues as well as proportions and kind of get a sense of what style I want to go for before committing to anything with clay. I draw a front view of Gwen and a side profile, and later on you'll see I will be drawing the back profile as well. That way you get a full 360 view, and it makes it a lot easier to go from a flat image with multiple views as a reference to a 3D image rather than just going from the front view. I'll include links in the video description below to all the supplies I used, including the clay and some of the tools. This is a 7-inch model and used about half of a 10.8 ounce Sculpey Soufflé pack. Next step, I build a wire and foil skeleton for Gwen. This cuts down on the amount of clay as well as keeps the whole figure a little bit more rigid. The clay that I use is Sculpey Soufflé, which is really nice and easy to sculpt. However, it is very soft, and if it were all the Sculpey Soufflé with such a tall, lengthy figure, it would basically bend and just kind of like meld to whatever shape, so it wouldn't hold its shape. Then you see I'm building a thin layer of clay that's as even as possible. I do this by rolling the clay out in even about 1/8 thick pieces of clay, or a little bit thinner, and then fitting it over the body and over the foil skeleton. By keeping the clay at an equal thickness and also making sure that it is not too thin, it'll prevent any cracking or any issues down the line, especially when baking. I'll provide a link to the Sculpey Soufflé that I had purchased on Amazon in the video description below. One other thing I use a lot is I'm on a glass surface, so I clean my surface that I'm working on in between colors, especially with white. It avoids a lot of the contamination. What you'll see me doing a lot before applying any new clay is doing what they call conditioning the clay, which is essentially getting all of the polymer clay heated up and kind of one again rather than being separated when it sits for a while or gets cold. It also gets some air bubbles out, and when you roll it out using a rolling pin or an actual clay conditioning machine, which can be purchased at an art store or online for around $30 to $40 for a decent one. I have not gotten far enough into polymer clay yet to warrant getting one. I've just been using a rolling pin. I use the back side of my X-Acto knife to kind of smush all of the clay in. I like it just because it is all aluminum and it's one piece. There are also some ball tools that I plan on purchasing very soon that allow you to do the same thing, and they're a lot safer because it's just kind of like a metal ball on the end and no blade. I've also had pretty good luck finding some cool tools at the Dollar Tree or the dollar store. I even found a teeth cleaning set that was only $1. It also came with a mirror. It was very cheap, attached, but it also was a little like double-ended pokey metal stick for kind of cleaning your teeth, but I'm using it for blending the clay as well as getting into some tighter spots and also carving some of the more detailed spots. I had some excess clay on the back that I just chopped off. Just kind of playing around with it, just seeing if I could create some new original character, but definitely not going to work for the Spider-Gwen, so I cut that off. Then I just used some more clay on the arms to finish everything up, give it an even layer of clay over the foil. In this next step, I make some fingers for Gwen using a real simple step that I've used in the Miles Morales, which is just cutting out some really thin lined and thin clay and kind of giving it a rounded edge. Then I roll out the edges so it doesn't have any square corners, and also on one side I put a little bit more pressure, which gives it almost like a fingertip where it kind of narrows down. But Then I line everything up, keeping in mind that kind of what actual hands look like, and that the center finger or your middle finger is usually the longest, and then your pinky is really short, and the other two are about the same. Once I have the right size, I just pick it up, and without pressing it too much, I just push down. A little bit hard to see off the camera, but I'm just pushing down on the two pieces of clay and using a little bit of pressure. And this type of clay bonds to itself pretty easily after doing that. And I also use some other tools to kind of blend and smooth everything out. Lastly, after I do the fingers, I put on a thumb, which if you look at your actual hand and kind of just figure out where it should go, and you measure everything out, it makes it a lot easier than trying to make hands just as a whole. Next, I added a little bit more clay to fill in the side pieces, as well as cut out some very, very thin pieces that were just some added details to the suit. And then in this part, I had already rolled out some clay real thin, and I was adding some thin rolled out pieces of blue to add a webbing design. This part is going to go on the inside of Gwen's hood. So on one side it's going to be this, and then I'm going to roll out a really thin piece of white and combine the two pieces. So to get the thin pieces, I'm just using a glass surface, which gives it a little bit of stick to it. And then I put pressure on the outsides and kind of, while I roll, pull a little bit on each side, very, very lightly, and it stretches everything out evenly. And laying it on top, I push down on the center pieces and then pulled a little bit down on each one to create that downwards droop to each of the webs. And I just did this step and repeated it a handful of times, and after a little bit of time doing this, it created a pretty cool web effect. In this last shape, I cut out the inside hood piece to kind of match the head and make it to a hood instead of having all the excess. And then I took a thin piece of white clay, rolled it out, and combined the two. So on one side it's white, the other side has got the webbing. I also used some thin white rolled out polymer clay in almond shapes for the eyes. Using a metal needle tool that I found at the dollar store in the dental cleaning area, pressed down on the clay and smoothed everything out, blending out the hood into the body so everything was white. This last step, I rolled out some green to match the shoes. This is going to be the ribbon that holds on the ballet flats. This style or design was back from the comic days, not so much in the movie, Into the Spider-Verse, where she just has ballet flats, but I feel like this kind of added a little bit more detail and matched up with Miles Morales that I did, especially considering how much time I spent on his Nike Air Jordan 1s. The last step, I put spider-gwen in the oven to bake, 275 degrees for 25 minutes. The package says 30, but I figured since it's a little bit thinner using the foil, I went a little bit less and it came out really good. It still has a little bit of flex to actual play, which is good, so it'll mean that it will not break as easily. But it has good form, and I'm really proud with how it came out. Let me know in the comments what you think below. Just like the Miles Morales, I was really happy that she stands up on her own, considering how small of feet and being a little bit top heavy, definitely more prone to falling over. Thanks again for watching. Really appreciate it if you enjoyed. Hit the like button, share, and comment below. Let me know what you think. As well as if you'd like to subscribe, hit the notification bell to get notifications for my newest videos. And until next time, peace.